this is the conversation that I wanted to have coming out of that. And it was something that kind of popped in my head. It's because of me having a little experience with the strongman world and sort of how that whole ecosystem works. But do we even need a CrossFit Games season right now? Like, could we just eliminate, like, let's just say that just went away. There's no game season. We'd still have some pretty big events. We'd still have Wadapalooza. You'd still have Dubai. You'd still have Rogue. You'd still have Wadapalooza SoCal. You'd still have FitFest. You'd still have, what are some other ones out there? Down Under CrossFit Championship. You'd have some pretty big events. And what if that's just what it is? Is this athletes went through this qualifying process, whatever it was for those individual events, they went and they competed, they were able to make some money, and then they moved on to the next one. Because that's kind of the way it is for strongman right now. You have 3, I think, kind of marquee events in the Arnold Strongman Classic, World's Strongest Man, Rogue Invitational. But you have all these other competitions that go on around the world, and athletes go and compete there, and they make various amounts of money doing it, and they seem to be able to sustain themselves. It's not a huge group, but there is a group doing it. Like, what would be, and I'm not advocating for this, I'm just saying, like, would that be so bad right now? Because it would put, I don't know, it would put the focus back right on the in-person stuff. And to me, in person and getting it broadcast or streamed at a decent level is what you need to do to grow this. That's my opinion. I could be totally wrong about that. But the more I thought about it, I was like, what if it did go away? What if we lost the games, which would stink, but we kept all this other stuff, and there were still all these opportunities for people to go and compete in person. You still had local competitions. You had these other, mid-minor or mid-major competitions like NorCal and Crash Crucible, and some of the ones that are out there. Like, what's wrong with that?
If that were the case, my hope is that it would be turned into something very much like the PGA and the FedEx Cup Championship, which the PGA did not have a championship playoff or tournament in any sort of form until 2007 when it was adopted. Now, the way the FedEx Cup works, more or less, is that throughout the season, you qualify in playing tournaments, you earn FedEx Cup points, and then at the end, there's one tournament where your points basically dictate where you start on the leaderboard relative to par, and so your points actually matter, and then someone gets to win. And it's almost like how Every Second Counts played out in 2008, where like your total time got you your total time accumulated gave you a lead on that final event. I don't think it would have to be exactly like that. But if there were a way to, in the very least, have all of these events agree to be like, hey, we're going to be a part of this bigger picture, and that bigger picture can be ran by, World Fitness Project, PFAA, someone like that, and we can basically say, hey, this is the calendar of events that you have to try and be a part of. There's these tiers, and they earn you this amount of points based on how you go. And at the end of the year, at the end of the calendar year, the very last event will be, and I'm even okay with like let's make the last event of the calendar year the Rogue Invitational, and that's going to be a big points earner. And at the end of the year, there's a season long champion, and that's it. And then that's your like big money thing. And then from there it would require a lot of people to say, hey, in order to be a tier 1 event, you got to have this many events over this many days, some kind of not standardized stuff, but some bare minimums that I believe the PFAA has spelled out as like recommendations over time. And then that way it's like, hey, if I miss one of these events, I know there are points opportunities on the table elsewhere. And just like in the PGA Tour, if you don't go to one of the majors, or if you don't go to one of the big signature events that they have now that are big money earners, you can still gain points in other tournaments that are like lower tier tournaments, because the PGA Tour has multiple tournaments going on just about every weekend in the season. So that would require a lot of legwork and a lot of coordination in a short amount of time. But if the CrossFit Games aren't going to like be the lead, that's kind of the way I would see it. Now, I don't know how Dubai would fit in being in December, but my hope is that you would have a calendar year that athletes can navigate, and then you have a couple months off for the holidays and just that time to reset, and then you pick back up in January.
Kick it off with Dubai.
You could, yeah. I mean, it's funny. The FedEx Cup does the race to Dubai, which is,
Yeah.
you know, but
What do you think,
yeah.
Lauren?
I like this conversation. I think it's interesting. I like the ideas that Tommy has because then it gives meaning to a season that isn't necessarily under CrossFit. Um the concept in general though, to me, it it prevents us seeing those matchups that draw people into seats and that we are waiting all year long for.
Like what?
The the Tia versus Laura, the Jeff versus, I mean, you could name like 8 different athletes on the men's field at this point. And like when I look at some of the off-season competitions, FitFest is world versus
Mhm.
Europe versus the world, I think is the way that they're formatting it.
Yeah.
SoCal the opposite, the US versus the world. Wadapalooza, while we do see people do team and individual, it's not necessarily the same matchups that we see in the individual field that we would see at I can really only compare it to Rogue and the games. Like Dubai has a lot of top athletes, but since it's so far for US athletes, you don't see all of those matchups that we really only see twice a year, which is at the CrossFit Games and then at Rogue. And with those semifinals, I mean, some of those matchups and those points that were so precious of those cut lines, I mean, those are the storylines that build the characters, build the sports. So I think without having some kind of season that leads you somewhere, you leave or you lose those opportunities, as we keep talking about, for something to pick up a Netflix series or on Hulu, or just following an athlete or athletes at a training camp through a season. I also think that if the CrossFit Games doesn't have a season, then they no longer can claim that their sport and methodology leads to crowning the fittest person on earth, which I don't know if they care whether it does that or not, or somebody else, a different competition would have to have that claim. If there's no games, if there's no season, if there's no structure to bring people somewhere, how can you then say, well, we're crowning the fittest on earth?
But I
Mhm.
guess my point is, do we need to do that anymore for this to be interesting?
And maybe not. But I think that that does set the sport apart from these other sports. Like, I don't know what High Rox's claim is. The most enduring? No, because
Yeah,
marathon runners, I get, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
to me,
But
and
does
again, it
that
might not matter, but it's really freaking cool that our sport can say, "Well, we have the fittest men and women on earth." Right?
yeah. I think that superlative was definitely an advantage for the sport early on,
Mhm.
particularly bolstered by the challenges that got thrown out, being like, if you can think you can beat them, bring it. And every other sport's like, no, I have the fittest. It's like, okay, well, what's your sport? It's like, oh, it's triathlon. I'm like, well, you can't lift. How can you say you're the fittest if you can't even lift your body weight? You
Mhm.
know, how can you say you're the fittest if you can't, if you're, a bodybuilder or a strongman, and like these other areas that you intentionally don't train aren't factored in. And so that's where like CrossFit was able to like kind of plant their flag,
Mhm.
and it made a meaningful difference. Like because as it got traction, and we kept repeating it, it's almost like because we kept repeating it, it kind of became true, and by virtue of no one being able to disprove it, it like grabbed hold in popular media. So it's like, so you could have Ben Smith on ESPN and Katrin Davidson on ESPN doing the during the Sports Center intro saying, "Hey, I'm the fittest
Yeah.
man and fittest woman on earth."
Wasn't
You
Fraser
know,
on the Today Show?
he was Fraser was on the
Yeah,
Today Show doing
it was either that or one of the Good Morning America. Maybe it was Good
it
Morning.
was. Ooh, it could have been Good Morning America, but it was
It was Good
definitely one
Morning
of the
America. It was
popular ones.
ABC.
Yeah. Yep. So it and that you get those claims, right? And
Yeah, but don't they do that in strongman too? They have like world's strongest man. It's just a competition. There's
yeah,
no, I mean, there's an elimination process that gets you into the stage so they can kind of make that claim. But like you have your world's strongest, he won the world's strongest man, but he didn't win Rogue. So does
but
that,
when but
I don't know,
but
I just wonder if that title is still necessary to carry the sport forward. And it might be, but it
it,
was the
it
question that popped into my head.
yeah, I think it might be given the setbacks that it's experienced in recent years. If things were rolling and some other company decided to buy out the sport and CrossFit's like, we're not going to give you the trademark for the fittest on earth. Maybe, yeah, that's fine. I mean, like, but I think about it this way, like growing up, like we would all see the world's strongest man, like Metric's World's Strongest Man on ESPN and SportsCenter and stuff like that,
It's been
right?
around forever.
Yeah, and you would, I always, and whether this was ignorance or not, because it would, at the other time, the other strongman events, the premier ones, didn't quite exist at the same
Mhm.
level. But that was always like, that is the strongest person on the planet.
Yeah.
Mm.
When I saw Magnus Magnuson, you know, and Mariusz Pudzianowski,
Wow.
like,
Even later.
like, back squatting 500 beer kegs, it was like, that is, and they won. I was
Damn.
like, that's the strongest man on the planet. And
Mhm.
that's what made me like, oh, that's kind of interesting. We're finding out the exact like tip of the spear. And now if I'm like, oh, like, what's this fitness thing going on? They're like, oh, we're just finding out who's really fit. But if you're like, no, we're finding out the fittest man and woman on the planet, and you can somehow incorporate that in, and we're like, we've tested them at events all over the world, and this is the fittest. If we're trying to recapture that and sell that to someone,
Mhm.
that it's a little, it's like, it's the cherry on top.
But if they were able to do that, so let's say you got your point system thing and you earn points, and then there is some sort of championship event that takes the best athletes and they put them in this setting, and they have they have like a 12 event thing. Can't you, like, that does encapsulate a complete test of fitness? And I know people will debate that regardless of what it looks like. But if they do that, can't you claim then that winner of that competition would be the fittest on earth because you got all the best people there, and then you put this person through that, they all
You
qualify?
could.
So I guess I don't. I love, like, it's why I love the original format of open regionals games, because there was that funnel. We all started at the same place. We had
Loved
5
it.
weeks. Then we sent 40 people in every region to the regionals, and then we cut that down, and then everybody went to this thing. And there were even arguments there that we weren't getting the right people, because it's like, well, why does this person from Asia get to go when this person who's ranked 6th in the West is so much better? There was always that debate too. But at the end of the day, like you said,
Mhm.
Tommy, you were able to say, yeah, this was the fittest on earth because they all went through the same process. Now that ain't coming back. That's
Yeah.
that's not in the anywhere on the horizon right now.
Yeah.
So would it, I guess my question is like, I would rather see more in-person competitions and more things being decided online. So if we
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
create a series of existing events where, like you said, they could get together and they could say, we're going to have this ranking system and this point system. And we all agree that, I guess, whoever winds up going to Rogue is going to be it. And then they would use that ranking system. I don't know if they would want to do that, but you would have to find an event that would be willing to be the marquee one that you sent all the best people to, and then they competed together. Now, maybe, and honestly, maybe that could be the games. Maybe that's all they have to do. It's just, we're just going to hold this big, we're going to put the onus on everybody else to use this filtering process. We don't need to run an open anymore. Although I know they want to, because it's a money-making opportunity for them. But
For now.
maybe they say, hey, we're going to do the games. We're going to sell a bunch of sponsorships behind it, and we're going to get this out of this system. People at the games are going to compete, and that's your fittest on earth.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd have to mend some bridges right now,
This is
given
obviously,
everything that's happened.
you know,
But
yeah,
All hypothetical.
it's
yeah,
all
and
hypothetical, it's all wishful thinking too. But
to your point about the claim, if I'm like, all right, like track and field at the Olympics, what do you think is the marquee event?
the decathlon, what is it? I don't know. I don't
What
follow.
is the event that everybody tunes in to watch?
100 yard dash.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Why is that?
because it's fast and exciting.
It's the fastest. You're the fastest man and woman on the planet.
Yeah, it's like
It's,
5 seconds.
all.
Oh my God,
It's
right? Yeah.
yeah. It's always billed as the fastest person on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
It's like nobody hits clocks a higher MPH than that person.
Mm-hmm.
It's always and even the 200 meters sometimes, just because you started to get people like Usain Bolt that would do the double, but like that's the stuff that was always like, you were that is the claim to fame. No one is faster than you.
Yeah. I don't know. Because I look at this new system, and it feels like survival right now as opposed to actually growing. It's like, this is and I understand the financial aspects behind it. It's like, they have to, CrossFit's got to make money. They got to make sure that they're turning a profit.
You
Understand
see, and
all
that's the interesting thing. Without going too far back, people will say that, oh, the games never made money. They actually did some years. It wasn't a ton, but they definitely did. And there were years that it broke even, and there were years early on that it cost money. The early years, spending money was with the clear goal in mind to work towards profitability and ultimately cash in on some big deals, which it was going to. So the years that it cost money was all part of the plan. It wasn't like the affiliates were just funding it constantly. There's also there were a couple points in time where the games had worked up to breaking even or were in the black a little bit, and there was a clear, deliberate decision for the sake of the spectacle by leadership to dip back into the red because it was cool.
Are you thinking
So,
helicopters?
Yeah, well, that was 2013.
helicopters.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm thinking it's the 2 helicopters.
You even go to 2016 and flying people down to the ranch. That was a
Yeah, that's a
deliberate
good
decision.
point.
So anyone from leadership complaining that the games cost money from back then, it's like, don't act like this was a surprise. You made that decision. There was like, oh, YOLO, let's do it. And
Yeah.
it was all with the understanding that, like, hey, we're heading towards this direction.
Yeah.
And especially because some of the stuff that dipped the game, that kept the games around breaking even or just minimal profits, a lot of it wasn't from our budget because our budget was so strictly regulated. It was wasteful spending from other parts of the company that they just like shoehorned into the game side. So it's like saying it wasn't profitable is only part of the discussion, and it's not the full picture, and it's not an honest discussion. So with that in mind, I'm like, yeah, they have to make money, but I want to know how the dollars and cents make sense here, right? Because you just cut out quarterfinals, 1.7. I would say the range is probably 1.5 to $2 million somewhere in there, high end, low end. You're without the semifinals, which there were what three CrossFit produced events, right? Let's just say $500,000 there. So you're at 2.5 million.
Where does the open announcements fall into that?
Depends. We don't know if they're doing them.
Yeah, I don't see. That's another thing. It would seem. I don't know. It would seem sort of. I hope they do them. I love them. But it would seem kind of. I don't know. What's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say disingenuous, but it's sort of a weird kickoff to nowhere because there was, I guess the open announcements for me are like, okay, here it is. Now we have semifinals to look forward to. Well, that's such a big unknown that there's such a huge gap between open and the guaranteed next time we're going to see anybody live, which is the games.
Yeah, but I think it still builds hype, and you get those matchups that I'm talking about, like the athletes that everybody's dying all season to see face off. That
okay,
I think,
sorry, I'll let you.
Do athletes still want to do it now? And knowing that it's a 1% cutoff, do they want to put themselves in the hole having to do it right then and there and not going to do it back at home?
Point, the 1%.
I'm sorry, Lauren, because when you brought that up, like it kind of changed my mind a little bit because now the moment means something that maybe people would want to tune into that more because there is like something seriously riding on this. But to Tommy's point, now because there is so much riding on this, do I want to do that?
Well, and every year CrossFit asks athletes, and there is a handful of athletes that say no for those exact reasons. They don't want to ruin their routine. They don't want to travel. They don't want to be in a different time zone. Like they want to just like focus and almost take the open to, well, they used to take the open to like not be peaked for, but now that they do have to peak, I think you're going to get even a longer list of athletes that say no to CrossFit if they're asked for that exact reason, if it happens.
I mean, and the other part of it is like how often we say this with the general direction of streaming and TV now. How many things are truly appointment television anymore?
Not a lot,
right? And with that in mind, how often can the CrossFit Games guarantee
Dancing with the Stars?
I did say Dancing with the Stars. Honestly, the season is pretty good, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Did you just blow a horn?
You got the sad horn for Dancing with the Stars.
Oh, come on now.
Sorry, Tommy.
Oh
I
my gosh. And
paraphrased.
but how often do you have, you're going to have the attention of the CrossFit community at large. You're going to get
Mhm.
more live and concurrent views than you ever get the rest of the season, right? There's the monetization of the channel from that perspective, but there's also the money that you can essentially earmark for yourself by knowing you have sponsor placements, right? And you can fulfill sponsor obligations because CrossFit has not been able to fulfill sponsor obligations and they've had to renege on some deals in the past year because they were like, we cannot make good on this.
Mhm.
So sorry, which is a very, very big problem. And so it's not just as
Wait,
simple as
what
like,
were
hey,
those? I don't remember that.
um, it hasn't been publicly
Okay.
announced.
That's not something I've heard. Okay, so I'm not gonna. Sorry.
Yeah. That's
Well, and even
there's
with weren't they supposed to be wasn't NorCal supposed to be a CrossFit licensed event, but CrossFit pulled out because they couldn't meet their obligations?
That's part of what I'm talking about, like the
Okay,
Yeah.
licensing event and supporting other events and stuff like
got it.
that,
Okay.
and not being able to fulfill the obligations that were written in the contract. Um, so it's not just as simple as like, hey, we spent $250,000 on 3 open announcements, and that's just gone from the budget. Now it probably is for the corporate overlords and the PE people, because they're just like, we're just erasing a line item. That's what looks good, balance sheet. But you're also like, okay, well, with it goes whatever potential sponsor revenue that is contingent on those activations. You've now, across 3 open announcements, those those 3 live open announcements have 3 million views across those 3 weeks. There's nothing else that you do the rest of the year that gets that type of engagement on those social channels. And
Hmm.
that's on YouTube. So they averaged 1 million. If you go into the 24.1, 2, and 3 announcements, they average a million views each. And in this day and age with the attention spans at where
Oh,
they're at, like
huge.
Yeah.
like that's the biggest, big like push that CrossFit has in that regard. So I'm like, are they really making sound financial decisions right now, or are they just doing so for the short term, as we have suspected,
Yeah.
because they're just, they're flipping the house, if you will.
Look. I hope they have them. I think it's a great thing for the community. I think it's a great thing for the affiliates that host them. And I think there's ways to enhance that whole experience for the affiliates themselves. There's a lot of stuff that you could do. I just don't know if they're gonna. I don't know. I don't know if they're gonna do them. I mean, I would. It was one of those things that it was always a guarantee until 2019. And even then, like that was, I remember the open announcement in 2019 that they just put on the affiliates. That was sort of when people realized, oh, this is going to be completely different because like, there was this expectation that those did not meet for whatever reason. But I hope they have them because they're just, I think they're a good thing. They do help kind of rally the community, but I don't know if they will or not. But I guess getting back to your just original question is that because this sport is what it is now, and because it's no longer this, we've identified the best athletes. That rarely changes. Like it's rare that someone that, well, I have never heard of this person all of a sudden winds up at the games. The rookies that we had this year, for the most part, have been knocking on the door for a little while and then finally broke through.
Mhm.
It wasn't like some total unknown just came out of the woodwork. But so I'm not saying it can happen, but we've pretty much identified who those people are. So let's just let all those people go out and compete in person, and then just let them go and compete in all these different events throughout the season. Find a way to have a ranking system, and then throw the best in event at the end of the year and be like, there's our champ.
Yeah.
Then you don't have to worry about submitting videos. I mean, you probably do for qualifying for events. Like there'll be some sort of qualification process, but I don't know. I just kept having this thought as they keep pulling back on the season. It's like, well, why don't we just, do we need it? Does the sport need it to survive? And I don't know anymore. I love the games. I hope they stick around. Um, but is it, that's the question, and I think people can debate that. I don't know where I stand on that either way because I do like that season. Like I said, I loved open regionals games. Like that system was not broke except for the financial aspects of it. I get why that wasn't sustainable,
Mhm.
but that to me was always the best one. And everything since then has been, trying to recapture that by doing less. And now it just feels like this is now the minimally viable product that we can put out there that's going to cost us the least amount of money. We know there's going to be some people who don't participate, but given some other decisions we're making elsewhere, and John Woolley did a great video on this. If you want a real good explanation on that, go watch his video. Like, I don't know. I just don't know if it's necessary anymore. If you can drum up interest around all these other independently run events where athletes can go and compete and make money.
Kind of.
Kind of.
Even in the sanctionals era, the money making really went to a handful of elite athletes at the top. It was highly condensed. While there was more money in theory on the table, it really only went to a handful of people, and more often than not, a lot of athletes were fighting for scraps here.
But that's individual sports in general. Like, if you look at where all the money goes in like in professional tennis, kind of the same thing. Golf, there's a bigger pot, so you can make more money. But it's I bet if you looked at it, there's a handful of people who are taking about like 80% of the prize money, and then you can make a good living making the cut because there's just a lot of money involved in it.
Mm-hmm.
But for other sports where it's individually based, it's probably the same story. This is not an ecosystem that's going to support a bunch of professional athletes. It's going to support 15 to 20 men and women at the most.
Yeah.
So, all right. Anything else you want to say about that?
I mean, for now, there's still a lot of details that we don't know.
And
a ton of details.
The Community Cup thing, I was like, it seems pretty cool. Like, there could be some good things in this. I just don't like the lack of live competition. That is concerning.
Yeah.
Not knowing what they're going to look like and whether or not they're going to, what level at which they're going to be streamed, or if they're going to be streamed at all, or what that coverage is going to look like. That is concerning to me.
Yeah, I liked this Community Cup idea 6 years ago when it was the team series and the liftoff. Now it just feels like they're, Indiana Jones trying to swap out the golden monkey for a bag of sand, and hoping not get crushed by the gigantic ball. It's just, and maybe that's like, now I'm like just full cynic mode, but
I mean, it's hard. It's tough because it's like every year it just seems like they're pulling back. And I understand the financial necessity of that, but we're no longer, this kind of hit me like, this is no longer like a growth mentality. This is, and maybe it is, maybe their thought is, and this is me being really Pollyannish here. Maybe it's okay, if we can reset this and get it to a point where it's financially sustainable, then we can kind of start from scratch. Again, I understand I'm being like a blind optimist with that statement, but I don't
start from scratch, meaning everything from scratch too, like resetting like personnel and leadership and because if you're actually starting from scratch, you got to start from scratch.
Right. Starting from kind of scratch then.
Yeah.
A rough draft. Where you like the only way we can grow it, like sometimes you got to take a couple steps back to take some steps forward, and maybe that's their. I'm not saying it is, and I'm not saying I believe that. I'm just trying to look at it from a different angle. So,
yeah.
Okay, PRs, no reps. We got anything before we say goodbye here?
I got a few.
All right, hit us. Let's do it. Will you start with no reps first or PRs?
No reps. We got to end on a good note.
Okay,
let's end on a good note. Let me.
Bunch of cynics over here.
Yeah, I know. Do you guys have any no reps? Hold on, let me.
I don't think I have it. I'm just gonna no rep. The amateur hour drivers that I'm dealing with right now. The guy going 5 miles an hour.
What's happening?
So I live around a bunch of Christmas tree farms. And the day after Thanksgiving is when it is like ultimate amateur hour up here. And the roads leading to my house, they go up a mountain. So it's like a lot of switchbacks, right? And they're narrow, but you can get 2 cars by. But people don't understand that you drive on the right. So if you're driving in the middle of the road and you're coming around a switchback, which is the blind corner, and someone's coming the other way, now you both have to stop. Someone's got to back up and get corrected. The problem is when there's so much traffic, you can't do that because the idiot behind the person driving on the left is also driving on the left. So there's this chain reaction that needs to happen to untangle this whole thing because people just don't understand that we drive on the right. So they just drive in the middle and it screws everything up. And a lot of them go like 5 miles an hour and it's just a nightmare. So we don't, like Black Friday, we don't leave the house because it is the traffic around here with people going to the Christmas tree farm is just nuts. So we try not to even deal with it. And I have to.
You need to.
So that's my no rep. It's like just drive on the right and always drive like someone's coming around the corner, but people don't understand that. So there's always these giant snarls that you have to untangle because, yeah, that's my no rep.
I'm gonna no rep baby clothes without zippers.
Yeah, see, I told you.
Oh, yeah. Sean warned you.
These are the worst.
They
What
are.
happened? There's a story here.
Oh man, I mean, just I never thought that just having to undo and redo a couple of button
Oh,
snaps would would ruin my day.
it's the worst, especially at 3 in the
But
morning, man.
oh man, yeah, seriously, it was probably 3:15, and is in a whirlwind of human excrement that just yeah,
Oh,
having
man.
that bod and the same. And on the flip side, whoever it was that created the double zipper for baby jumpers, where you can zip from the bottom to check.
Yeah.
Thank
Oh,
you, human.
wow.
Yeah.
You
Yeah. No,
truly
no,
Great
contributed to
invention.
society.
yes, you
Yeah.
did.
Thank you.
Yep.
That's
But yeah. But that will lead me to my actual PR.
well,
Is
no, let's get to Lauren. Do you have no rep, Lauren?
oh yeah.
Don't walk in front of somebody if they're about to do a lift. Just don't. Like, wait
Oh
2
yeah,
seconds for them to
it's
do a
like
lift.
talking in someone's backswing.
It drives me insane, and the people that do it are people that should know better. Like, you have been at this affiliate since it was founded over 10 years ago. Why are you walking 2 feet in front of me before I snatch?
Yeah, don't do it.
So
Are they
pass this to
competitive
your
with
friend?
you?
No, not even close. We're not
Oh,
even in
okay.
age brackets that are in the same
Okay.
decade.
I was thinking sabotage.
Yeah.
No. So yeah, if you're watching this and you didn't know that, here is your piece of advice. Don't walk in front of somebody before they lift.
I won't even do like if you're on a squat rack and you're facing each other. I won't even do it. Like I try not to go at the same time as the person opposite me.
Yep.
I got to
No.
wait. Wait, nope, you're first. Go ahead.
Respect.
Yeah.
Unless it's a
Respect
buddy,
the
in which case,
lifters.
Unless it's a buddy,
it,
you're doing all kinds of, you're like,
yeah. Yeah.
screw them up. So, okay, let's Tommy, you PR.
I'm gonna PR the Latino World Order.
Oh,
Wait, what? I don't know about
got it.
this.
All right.
AKA the entire Woodland family, AKA the Woodland family Cowboys Gear Good Luck Charm.
I told you we were going
Uh,
to.
so a box showed up from one Max Woodland, which is Sean's son, addressed to our family and our son. And inside of it was what for one, a baby jumper from a well-famed wrestling faction from the Attitude
Oh my
Area called the
God.
Latino World Order, which was a spin-off of the New World Order, the NWO, and it's fantastic. I opened it up and immediately started laughing. And Tip looks over and she goes, "Is it wrestling related?" I said, "Yeah." And she just goes, uh, and I'm like, "And you're not gonna like what's coming after this." Because then I opened it up, and there was a Cowboys beanie, Cowboys outfit, and this huge fluffy Cowboys jumper onesie,
Oh my
like
God.
that is meant for that, like the cold weather. That is chef's kiss. It
Yeah,
is. Thank you so much, and it
you're
made me
very
so
welcome.
happy. And
So I bought the Latino. Obviously, that one was for me. Like the Latino, my wife found the cowboy stuff, but the Latino World Order I got before I knew you were having a boy. And I was like, well, either way, we're going with this. Yeah, either way, this is happening. So I'm
Yep.
glad you guys got that. That's great.
And the first day that we had it, the Cowboys actually won.
There you go.
Who kn- who
Who
knew?
knew?
Broke the
Yeah,
curse.
good stuff.
But
Lauren,
yep.
PR.
Thank you.
Well,
You're very
first,
welcome.
I just noticed that I have
Hey, oh, that's an old one too. That's before they changed their logo.
so these Denali blankets. Do you know what those are?
No.
They're very nice blankets that I get in the Adirondacks. And normally they run,
Okay.
depending on the size, like around $75. The Rams,
Huh.
though, it was
Of
15.
course it was.
So,
Ain't no one buying that.
so me and my mom were like,
Our
There's no
fan
one
what?
base.
in upstate New York buying
Yeah,
Rams gear.
like 20
So
of
me
us.
and
That's
my
about
mom
it.
have Rams Denali blankets because they were the cheapest ones.
Oh, yeah.
But
Well,
that's not my PR. My PR is to Emily and Kyle Rolfe. I forgot to PR them last week. Did I podcast with you guys last week? I don't know. All my
no.
days and okay,
Yeah.
that's why.
Oh, you did. Yes.
Did I? Okay, I forgot. So they were so kind. They were in Texas for tactical games, and I spent the day with them at Yeti HQ. Emily
Oh, yeah.
signed like this really cool poster, and it was like this great little day that we all had together. And they rented a U-Haul for their mode of transportation, and we'll see if
I can't
it
even see that. What is
so they were so kind to let me sit like smack dab
it's
in the middle.
of the U-Haul?
Yeah.
Nice. That's all blurry, but okay.
I'll
yeah.
post it on Instagram, but they gave me a lift, let me sit Twinkie. It was very tight in there, but some great conversation with two great people.
Let you
Fantastic.
sit what? Did you say
Twinkie.
Twinkie?
Yeah.
I've never heard that
Oh,
before.
I've never
Yeah,
heard
like
that
you're the
either.
cream of the Twinkie. Like if you sit in
No.
the middle, like, okay, who's got Twinkie seat? Okay,
Yeah.
let's relax. Let's
Yeah.
relax.
I need an adult. I need an
And
adult.
on that note,
All right. Okay.
Wow.
I don't know if I have a PR. Oh, I'll PR. You know what? I'll PR the Glitten Things podcast. I was on that
oh yeah, I saw them
on
share it.
fantastic. Like, I had a
I love
great
them.
time. It was really cool. And I had a really good time. It was good fun, and thank them for having me. Like, I'm always honored when someone asks me that they want to talk to me. It's someone does that, it's flattering. And I had a
No
great
doubt.
conversation. Fantastic people. So thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Okay. That's
No
it for
doubt.
today. Oh, you know what? Hang on. I got to vamp for a second. Because Thanksgiving's coming up. Right?
Oh yeah, this is our Thanksgiving podcast. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh, and I
Thanksgiving is coming up. So
I don't know
real
what
quick,
day
what are
it
you
is.
thankful for, Lauren? Mine's
Life.
easy. I've got a 9-pound bundle of joy over there. I gotta be
you guys hear
thankful for
this?
because, yeah.
What is that?
Oh, we can't hear it. We can't hear it, Sean.
Yeah.
We can't hear.
You
We
can't
can't
hear
hear
it?
it. No.
Oh,
No,
man. All right.
because your headphones are in. What is it?
Never, man.
Oh, I got beans,
Okay.
greens,
I had
potatoes,
it. Yeah. I
tomatoes,
thought you could
beans,
hear it.
greens.
Oh,
We
well.
play it. We play it every year
I
around
know you play it every
Thanksgiving
year. Now I
for the
can't
podcast.
play it. Why is
The
it not
lady, she's like,
working?
I got beans, greens, potatoes, tomatoes, rams,
Hang on.
hams, chickens, turkeys.
Yes, because
You
food is coming.
name it.
Food is coming here. That was a big bummer that I missed,
It
by
was
the
a
way.
big meme that was like, it's Thanksgiving, what are you gonna eat? And it's that like woman singing that song about all the
Mhm.
food.
Yams, hams, rams.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that one.
exactly.
No,
I'm like,
maybe I'll find a way
but
to edit it in. So I'll do that. We'll fix it in post.
I was like,
Can you also
what?
send it in our group? I need to hear it.
Yes. I
Yeah,
was
I
like,
can do
what?
it.
First off, have we ever like dissected that song? Like, what
I
kind
don't
of
think so,
food
but
list
that's
is
our
that?
thing. I don't care, but
It
it's
sounds
just a lot of
it
food,
sounds like
man. It's
a
like it's that meme. Like, here's what my grandma's cooking. My grandma say. So anyway, everybody have a safe and fantastic Thanksgiving. Enjoy your food. Enjoy your families. And then look, when that
Pa.
turkey's done, go nuts. Go nuts with the Christmas decorations. Put on the Christmas music, holiday music, whatever. Have a blast. For those of you that don't celebrate American Thanksgiving, enjoy your full week of work, suckers. So there you go. Done on Wednesday. 4 days. All right. That's gonna do it for today. Thank you so much to our sponsors. Thirdsy, remember that Black Friday deal that they have. Thirdsy.com/TEF on Black Friday weekend. It's like a 45% savings. You will thank us. And then Creatures of
Hey.
Habit as well. Check them out. Creaturesofhabit.com. Creatures with a K. Use the code TEF. 20% off as well. All right, everybody. Have happy Thanksgiving. Take care of each other. Be better. And we will talk to you guys next time.
Greens, potatoes, tomatoes, chicken, turkeys, beans, greens, potatoes, tomatoes, lamb, ram, raw, beans, greens, potatoes, tomatoes, chicken, turkeys, rabbit.